Has hip hop benefited the black community overall? Has this been a plus or has this been a minus? Am I supposed to ignore that? Am I supposed to act like these young brothers out here who pushing death and destruction, sexual exploitation and miscegenation of black women, these young brothers who out here pushing drug selling, going to jail, and everything possibly illegal to children, I'm supposed to believe that this was a blessing to the black community?
Hip hop. Hip hop has done more damage to black and brown people than racism in the last 10 years.
I can connect to it because it's in like a language I can understand. You know, music is one of the universal languages, and it's one of the best teaching tools you can implement in school.
What's up, YouTube? It's Kaon, aka Kaon Puts You On, and today we are talking about a crazy topic. Bro, I didn't think I'd ever have to make this video because I thought this discourse was dead, but it's well and alive, okay? Basically, there's been some talks with Dr. Umar. If you don't know Dr. Umar, we'll get into it. But basically, Dr. Umar said this.
Ask you again.
Yes, sir.
How did black America benefit from 50 years of hip hop? And don't give me individual rappers. That's called tokenism and bourgeoisie.
I won't give you tokenism. I will give you.
How have we benefited as a people from hip hop?
Basically saying that hip hop has done nothing positive for black people. Basically saying that there's more negatives than positives for black people regarding hip hop. Now, I don't need to explain. This is a crazy take. But as I did more research and kind of looked at more discourse regarding kind of how people viewed hip-hop and talking with some friends that really aren't familiar with hip-hop, a lot of these same sentiments that Dr. Umar is saying is instilled in a lot of other people outside of the black community. So I thought maybe it'd be beneficial to make a video kind of talking about why I think hip-hop has done great things for black people and why I don't think it's a bad thing overall. Now, if you don't know Dr. Umar, he is the Pan-African king. He is someone who preaches for black unity, preaches for black people to like pick themselves up.
I'm supposed to believe that this was a blessing to the black community when you brainwashing our kids, and on top of the brainwash, on top of the toxic content, you don't even come back to the community and do anything good for it except give out some damn turkeys and sneakers. Are you Street? Little Rock should have a Black Wall Street with all the money that these gangster rappers are making.
To unify, to gain community. He talks about things that'll benefit the black community. Now, what he's most popular for, I would say, are two things. One, as he promises he's going to build this school called like Marcus Garvey Academy.
It is the Prince of Pan-Africanism standing here on the sacred grounds of the most anticipated independent African school in modern history, the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey, RBG, International Leadership Academy for Pan-African Excellence, brothers and sisters.
Now, Marcus Garvey has a whole history of being a Pan-African person. Basically, Pan-African means that every person that's black, regardless of where their nationality is all one. It's a Pan-African king. To my understanding, I'll put a definition on here just in case I'm wrong. Basically, he's promised that he's going to build this school. However, it's been a few years and he hasn't done that. That's where most of his critique comes from when people are critiquing him, is that the school hasn't been made. And he asked for donations. A lot of these donations come in. We don't know where the money's going necessarily. And that's where we're at with Dr. Umar's school. The second thing, probably the most important thing for like social studies type of people out there, is that Dr. Umar does not believe in interracial marriages, interracial relationships. He predominantly talks about this with the black community. However, he believes that no race should be dating outside of their own race.
Are you totally against interracial relationships?
I am totally against it, and I want to make sure you understand why.
And he believes this because he doesn't think there's an economic benefit normally to date outside of your race, and it hinders the economic status of your race, specifically within the black community. Now that we got that out of the way, it's also important to note that he does have a PhD in child psychology, maybe psychology specifically. So that's kind of his background, kind of where he stems. Basically, a lot of the critique that I've been seeing, that I've heard about hip-hop, that it perpetuates violence, it perpetuates misogyny, it perpetuates kind of like this independent culture that you like hold everything to yourself and you don't give out money and you don't have community. And that's Dr. Umar's main takes. But you also see this within like Fox News.
Oh, not helpful with those song lyrics.
To say the least, not helpful at all. This is why I say that hip-hop has done more damage to young African Americans than racism in recent years.
You see this within conservative rhetoric regarding black music as a whole. And we've seen this in history where people will be talking about black music as being kind of primitive, as being not as advanced. And I think that's where a lot of these attributes really stem from, is this internal racism that a lot of people have when discussing hip hop. Now, to say, are all of these critiques invalid? Does hip hop sometimes perpetuate violence? Yes. Does it sometimes perpetuate misogyny? Yes. But we do see that in other genres as well, specifically with the misogyny. I'll put some clips in here, but like there are country songs, pop songs. There is every type of music has instances where it perpetuates this narrative of misogyny. Sometimes there's even violence in other genres, talking about wanting to kill somebody's boyfriend or X, Y, and Z. This is not a hip hop specific thing. However, the mainstream outlets and the labels really perpetuate this violence within the black spaces of hip hop. You don't really see that within these white spaces. Usually a white rapper talking about being violent or doing X, Y, and Z doesn't sell well, or they don't try to at least sell that, because maybe it doesn't do well, but I think mainly is that black people in society, because of racism, because of oppression, because of these different stigmas that other people have placed on us, it makes it kind of normalized, and it makes it not surprising when a black person is saying violent things. And so I think when you see a white rapper do it, it doesn't necessarily sell well, because that's not what society is used to perpetuating. So hip hop kind of has these like racial pillars built around it, but I think that's if you're looking at it with like the lens of someone who doesn't engage in hip hop, who only looks at the top 100, who only looks at like what's controversial within hip hop. Now, if we did that with any other genre, it would also look crazy, okay? If we looked at country music and we just plastered like what it perpetuates, there's a lot of misogyny, there's a lot of cheating, there's a lot of drama that it happens in country music all the time. However, we do not talk about that. The media outlets do not talk about that. They want to talk about hip hop because like this is just fueling an already built narrative that has been built since the creation of America. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been dealing with these racists this whole time, bro. We've been dealing with these racists this whole time. So when you're looking at hip-hop through this lens, it's going to look a little wacky, okay? It's going to look a little crazy. If you do that with any genre, it's going to look a little crazy. However, when you really break down this critique, the commercialization of black trauma and everything like that, you start to be like, oh, hip-hop is like not this one-dimensional gang-banging, I'm going to kill your whole family type of thing. It does happen. And there's reason for that, and we're going to get into that. There's reason why rap music has this like narrative, why a lot of people are expressing their traumas, their livelihood in these raps. We're going to talk about that later in the video. But yeah, I think the critique is interesting. When we're going from Dr. Umar saying that like all rap or like hip hop is just talking about violence, perpetuating violence, I think he's missing this core piece, is that why is this happening? Why is a lot of the rap that you're seeing specifically, why is violence perpetuated? Why is crime perpetuated? Why is a lot of these like usually like lower income community issues, we talk about violence, we talk about have to hustle, why are a lot of these things perpetuated within the space? And a lot of that is because it sells well. Hip-hop has been horribly commercialized. This is a genre that I think really wasn't meant to be commercialized. However, I think it's great that it makes a lot of money. It makes so much money. It's one of the best selling genres of all time. But hip-hop at its core was not supposed to be commercialized. And I'll get into that. However, I think because of this commercialization, because of all these eyes on it, what has always sold well in all art, in all entertainment, is sex, money, violence, drugs. The world doesn't really want to put into something that doesn't excite them, that doesn't make them go, wow, like this is crazy, this is wacky. But when you hear Baby Kia rapping on a song talking about murdering his ops in this high-pitched, aggressive, scary, like type of presence, that's gonna push you back and be like, whoa, like what's happening here? Let's all put a lens on this here. When you have that kind of excitement, that like anticipation, that commercialization, it's gonna sell well. It's going to sell great. It's like any movie. Action movies are going to sell great. Movies talking about rom-coms where like there's a whole bunch of love interests happening. There's like 8 different guys trying to get with these 8 different girls. It's going to sell well. And that's just what we see in hip-hop. It's just society enjoying sex, money, drugs. That's just what we're going to see, right? Like that's what's going to be popular. It is surprising when that doesn't happen. However, I think one thing important to note is that a lot of hip-hop doesn't push this rhetoric. so much. Every time I talk to somebody and they're like, hip hop has this violent rhetoric, they're only listening to the top 100. There's a top 100 and then there's everyone else. Okay, there's everyone else. And they also sell well. They're just not in the top 100. They're not super mainstream. And I think it's always interesting that I always usually default to Kendrick because, one, he sold well, and two, he's like very well known. So whenever somebody has this rhetoric, I'm like, well, look at Kendrick. Kendrick is a great example of why hip-hop is so great, why it's so amazing, what makes it so unique. Like, he is the embodiment of that in a way. I'm not saying he's like the sole proponent of that, sole reasoning of that, but like he is like a great like figurehead for like why I think hip hop is great. He talks about oppression. He talks about societal issues. He's talking about things bigger than himself. He's talking about like how his perspectives changed as he grew up, and it went from a violent rhetoric to kind of being like, this isn't like how it's supposed to go. Like, it shouldn't be like this. He talks about like his trauma with his father. And that's the great thing about hip-hop, bro. That's the amazing thing about hip-hop. You have Denzel Curry talking about being from South Florida, talking about how a lot of people are industry pets, how he kind of grew up, how the people around him, that mentality, just the people around him, like, look at, like, I think there's a song called Sick and Tired, This Life. He has so many songs where he's talking about all these struggles that he's going through. And we also have rappers that don't talk about trauma. We have, like, Amine, doesn't necessarily talk about trauma, going through something crazy. There's certain hip-hop tracks, like from the Gorillaz, that are just kind of upbeat, funky, fun. And they do have their tracks where they're talking about these struggles, but it's not all of that. But the core of hip-hop has been talking about these real issues, where you couldn't necessarily do that in other genres. You can't just go to like a pop song, or like, it's hard to do rock and talk about oppression. You have all these instrumentations drowning over the lyrics. And sometimes that can get hard, but you do have people like System of a Down. You do have people taking aspects of both these things like Cypress Hill, Rage Against the Machine. A lot of rock and punk has been like that, but hip-hop really was specifically kind of talking about black struggles and these issues there. And I think that's kind of the great thing about hip-hop that I think Dr. Umar is kind of glazing over, is that a lot of rap isn't really like that. You have like JPEG Mafia talking about like the military-industrial complex and his issues with that because he was in the military. You have people like J. Cole talking about like the middle class black struggle sometimes. You have people like Logic talking about his biracial struggles. He's biracial. He's very biracial. Okay, don't forget Logic is biracial. All right. But in all seriousness, you have Logic talking about all these struggles with molestation, with X, Y, and Z that he went through. So the core of hip hop, a lot of these people that, if you're in the hip hop space, we praise. These are the people that we actually really care about. Not to say that like a lot of these rappers not talking about these like oppressive ideals aren't great, like Lil Durk, the Migos, Chief Keef. Not to say they aren't great, but when we're thinking about the top best hip hop rappers, hip hop artists, we don't necessarily look at them because like they're not pushing the core hip hop values that we have. And there's like 6 pillars of hip hop that a lot of people like will quote, and that's kind of like where we look to kind of define the importance of hip hop. You can look at something like Grandmaster Flash, The Message. That's one of the OG hip hop tracks, and that kind of sums up like what hip hop was really about in the beginning and where like it still is. And I think that's where Dr. Umar forgets, is that hip-hop is a community thing. Rap is a community-based thing. What we care about in hip-hop is our community. That's like the whole crux of the thing. We're talking about oppression not only affecting us, but affecting our peers, our friends, our family. We're talking about giving back to the hood. We're talking about being in the hood. We're talking about our struggles so that you don't feel alone. Vince Staples, for example, when I heard his music, same with Kendrick, same with J. Cole, I really related, and I felt like I wasn't alone. But if I had to listen to, like, Taylor Swift only, if there was only, like, Adam Levine, Maroon 5, bro, I'm not going to feel that way. I'm going to feel like I am alone. Like, everything I'm hearing, everything that I'm seeing, the music videos, there's no one like me. There's no one like me who grew up, like, with these different issues. And hip-hop kind of had that for me. Hip-hop really had that for me. You don't have to just be black to relate. You can be rich and white and still relate to hip-hop and be like, oh, I have grown up with this privilege. And I do have friends like this. And I do have homies like this. I got, like, there's celebrities that I need to, like, actually consider the struggle that they've been through and, like, where that privilege leads me. And I'm not saying to have white guilt or something. That's not what I'm preaching here. But what I'm preaching is, like, there's a relatability in hip-hop. That's the main thing. It's very community-based, where country is also community-based. Don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of aspects of country music are rooted in country ideals. Like it's also a community-based thing, but more for country. Like they're talking about going fishing. They're talking about like being in like a Jeep, like or like F-150, having these experiences. But I can't really relate to that. I didn't grow up in the country. I grew up in like a city. So we have these pop records where like I'm gonna go back to Taylor Swift, but like she is a white, folky kind of girl from Tennessee or Nashville, wherever she's at. I don't really relate to her that much. When I hear her music, I don't resonate that much with her. But she has music where I hear something like Love Story, and that I resonate with because that's so beautiful, and I've experienced love. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we have that as well. I think that's one large aspect that Dr. Umar really didn't consider, a lot of people don't consider, is how community-focused hip-hop really is. And so now I want to get into rappers giving back. Dr. Umar says in one of these clips that he doesn't want to see rappers have a food drive. He doesn't want to see rappers have like giving like shoes and backpacks and things. I think this kind of view comes from a place of privilege. I don't know Dr. Umar's background 100%. In my like going to school, I've never gotten like sneakers from people. Like I've never gotten sneakers from the school, never gotten sneakers from like a celebrity coming back, and something like this, some simple gesture of the rapper or artist or actor or entertainer coming to my school and being like, hey, this is the path that I took. I was literally where you're at right now, and look at me now.
Eagle Academy for young men in the Bronx, high school age kids, to see Fat Joe, who grew up right in the neighborhood. He came here, he gave them an inspirational message, and he gave out some clothes and sneakers, as he put it, very fly items that are going to make them look very good and ready to be in school this year. Joe inspiring these kids.
I think it's extremely inspiring. You know, you're from the community, you come back to the community. One of those young people in the audience is probably saying, I have a pathway out. And it's about changing the narrative, you know, showing that the other aspects of hip-hop. You know, we often hear, you know, about the criticism all these years. Hip-hop is about misogyny, it's about violence, it's about this, that, and the third. But we don't talk about hip-hop and education and how it can be used to motivate students, to inspire them socially and emotionally, to help them even get into their academics. So, yeah.
And you know, it's back to school. Everybody don't got it like that. So, you know, we're very blessed.
I have what a lot of these people don't have, and I'm going to give back to you now. This is me giving back. That is like beautiful to me. It shows that like these kids may not feel good about themselves. They may not feel like they can do anything. They may not feel like they can achieve these goals that they have. But when you see a person who literally sat in your same seat do your dream or do something so great that you view as amazing, inspirational, it gives you kind of hope, and it makes you feel seen, it makes you feel understood. And he may think of this as like very minuscule on the scale of things. And I guess, yeah, giving shoes to kids is like not the biggest thing ever. It's not building a school. It's not creating this like industrial, systematic thing that like will send kids to college. It's not a LeBron Foundation. You know what I'm saying? It's not this grand gesture. However, it's something that I think is like very misunderstood about art, but I think is very misunderstood about music, hip-hop, movies, entertainment, is that art is here to inspire us. It's here to make us see the world kind of different, us to feel warm, cold, sad, happy, to be able to believe. That's what art is here for. Shoes is kind of like a representation of that inspiration. Backpacks is kind of like symbolic of, oh, you didn't think you could do this? Well, I have literally fed your entire school. I gave y'all a food drive. I gave everyone a backpack so that you don't come to school with this raggedy hole in your bag. Your shoes got holes in them. Maybe you can't afford Adidas. Maybe your family only can only get like Fubu or Shaq Walmart shoes, and that's not really popular where you're at. Like, you know how crazy it would have been if I would have been able to come home to my mom and be like, hey, this rapper came to our school and gave me these shoes. Like, you know how beautiful that would have been? How crazy that is? And like, it's such a simple thing, but like, that would have like literally changed. That would have made our like year, bro. That would have made our year if I could have just got an extra pair of shoes. Like that is crazy. And like, that's when he's looking at this, when Dr. Umar's looking at this, or like people critique kind of rappers doing these food drives, these turkey drives, they forget how inspirational a lot of these things are. How beautiful this simple gesture can be, and how this can really unify a community. We see rappers like Kendrick go to a high school in Compton and do a cypher in front of all of them.
Never been a coward, I devour any MC by law. This is skill, this has never been flawed, this is imperfection, this is not.
We're teaching and learning.
How to say that off the top with it, I don't even know, I never pop, lock, drop with it. Why I ain't white or black, no, I'm in the middle. Yeah, I like to ball, but the boy can never dribble, little.
Talk about poetry, talk about like art, you know what I'm saying? And these kids can give back, they can give that back. And they have this kind of like bond already because we all love this thing. Like he loves poetry, they love poetry. And now they get to feel seen, they get to feel understood, they get to see this other dude that was maybe in their shoes and like they're off to do great things now. Like these small gestures are beautiful. He didn't even have to like give them any money or anything, but like him just showing up is inspirational. I'm not saying that rappers are perfect or rappers could maybe not do a little bit more with the millions that they have. Like Tupac kind of talks about.
There's no way Michael Jackson should have, or whoever Jackson, should have $1 million, $1 billion, and then there's people starving.
Like people have all these millions of dollars, but they don't give back to homeless people. I think it's beautiful when someone like Nipsey Hussle makes an entire shopping center that employs people from the community and gives back to the community. It's redirected back to the community. And he wasn't the biggest rapper of all time. And you just see how much he like loved his community and how much he genuinely like felt like he needed to give back. And he revamped like a school playground, like
Tree School,
and rooted in this community since day one.
Touring the basketball courts he helped renovate in a partnership with Puma. This is what the courts looked like before.
The backboards was a little ate up, you know, it was no color on the floor, it was a little ran down.
And this is what they looked like after. Nipsey and Puma pumped 10 grand into them.
Obviously the artist was crazy, drew visuals, and it just brings some color, you know, to a place where all the kids gonna be every day, you know, surrounded by art. I think it's good for the brain, I think it's good for the spirit.
Basketball court, again, may seem trivial to someone whose ideal is like build a school. But if we're being honest, like, you know how crazy it is to like not have a good backboard when you're gonna be out there all day, every day, like for recess, and now you have this crazy looking court and like you're excited to go play basketball on these brand new rims and you can do a layup and it not like weirdly bounces off. You know how crazy that is, bro? Again, it may seem like something so simple, something so not the grandest gesture. But again, these small things impact kids on a scale that we can't comprehend. And I think Dr. Umar really forgets how community-oriented. I think the main issue that Dr. Umar really has here with this take, and I think a lot of people will have issues with, capitalism has like really ruined their view of art. I don't want to get like political on here. I'm not going to be like, oh, communism is the best or socialism is the best. Whatever you think is the best, that's probably the best for you, bro. But we can all agree that capitalism puts a price on art. When you put a price on it, humans naturally, because of how the system's built, we value money and we value things that cost a lot of money. And I think it's understandable for Dr. Umar to have this take of like, I think he talks about black people not owning a lot of the labels and white people are reaping a lot of the benefits that hip hop creates financially. I think that's very true. And I would love for more black people to own more labels. We have people like Dreamville. We had QC. We have TDE. These are a lot of the major labels, to be honest. But like he says, a lot of like Interscope and these things are owned by people who are not black, and they profit probably the most because of how commercialized they make hip hop and how well they sell it and how well it just naturally sells itself. And I do agree with him for sure. I think as a black community, we can do a lot better in terms of owning our own labels. And it would be great to see more rappers kind of create their own labels and give back. We've seen Lil Yachty try to do this. We now see Kendrick doing this with PG Lang. We are seeing this more. And I think what he's forgetting, one, is that, like I said before, like hip-hop was not this thing that was really meant to be commercialized. We talk about oppression, we talk about struggles to educate, to inform, to show the world what we're going through so that our voices aren't voiceless. Right? We're not silent. It's very interesting to see kind of his take on hip hop be it's not doing good for black people because it doesn't make money. He sounds like a lot of the oppressors who put down black people, especially back in the day, for like our only value being that we make money. Hip-hop is not here to make money. Hip-hop is here to be an art form that is meant to be digested, to change kind of how you think, to make you more spiritually and like in the real world, like you just to understand what's going on. And Dr. Umar has really just gotten eaten up by this capitalistic view of hip-hop and how it can't be good unless it's making us money. And it can't be good because a few rappers talk about bad things and it sells. Like, in all industries, that happens. And I think it's just really sad to see. I'm not like the biggest Dr. Umar fan, but he does have like occasional good takes on children within schools and kind of how they're impacted. And I do have a little bit of respect for Dr. Umar in the sense that he is educated in his field. When he talks about his field specifically, he does great. I think he does amazing. When he kind of gets out of that in terms of psychology, it kind of gets a little iffy. So I was kind of disappointed to see, and like, he's a black man pushing down one of the biggest black art forms of all time. And it's just sad to see, bro. I'm going to be honest. It's sad to see. Like, it's crazy, bro. Basically, hip-hop is great. Hip-hop is great. And if we're lying to ourselves if we saying it's not, I got a Mac Miller shirt on right now, playing the keys. Like, this hip-hop thing is amazing. It's beautiful. It can't be replaced. And we have to recognize that. And we have to recognize just how amazing it is. And it's not above critique. I'm not here to say hip-hop is above critique and there's nothing wrong with hip-hop at all. But to say that it's bad overall is doing an injustice to one of the greatest art forms ever created. But that's all I got to say on that, man. Thanks for watching, y'all. I really appreciate it. If you made it this far, you're crazy. I appreciate you for real. But as always, follow my other platforms, comment, like, and subscribe if you like the content. I should probably add that. As always, if you like the content, make sure you give me a like and subscribe and comment what you think down below. But yeah, man. Definitely check out my other content. I got mad video essays, mad hip-hop topics, music topics, art topics. I've been streaming as well. You can see my Twitch down there. I've been streaming, y'all. So definitely pop into the stream. I stream on TikTok and Twitch. I'm just going to do like games, reactions, like nothing crazy. I kind of want to stream just like have fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's a good time. It's a good time in our stream. You know what I'm saying? It's a good time in the stream. But as always, man, I appreciate you guys. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning in. The videos have been doing great. I haven't done a video update like in a while, so I might as well do it now, like channel update. But I'm finally able to monetize on YouTube. Let's clap it up. You know what I'm saying? Able to monetize. I made $1 estimated revenue earnings this month. Nothing crazy, you know what I'm saying? But it's like just so cool that like I'm able to do that now. TikTok live, I did make, I think, $1 last night. That was crazy. So definitely tune into the streams. Twitch, I had 3 unique viewers on Twitch. I had 3 of them. I think 2 of them were me, because I logged in on my phone, and I also logged on my computer just to see kind of how it was looking. So I had 1 unique viewer, and I appreciate you, twin. I appreciate you. That's the homie right there. But thank you guys for tuning in, for real. I really appreciate you. I really love y'all. As always, peace out. Be smooth.